It's been a while, but it's back. Extra Bases with Bristol and Booth. Jason Bristol, Jeremy Booth, both here. It has been a long time. Jeremy's been busy. I've been busy. And now baseball seems to be busy. George Springer.
Yeah. We talked about this a while back about his departure that was inevitably going to come from Houston. I think maybe a couple of years ago we talked about this. And my understanding is that he really does want to leave. It's pretty obvious. He's got some heavy suitors. I think the Toronto Blue Jays are pretty aggressive at the moment.
That one's really interesting to me, Jeremy, because I look at the Toronto Blue Jays, and initially when I first saw the report, I was like, really? But then I got thinking about it. Here's a team that's really on the cusp with all those young kids, Bichette, Vladdy Jr., Biggio, the pitchers, the list goes on and on and on. And to add a veteran like Springer, no nonsense guy, knows how to have fun within the clubhouse, universally loved. It seems like a no-brainer. Plus, it's close to the Northeast. It's not that far from where he grew up. Yes, it's a different country, but if you know your geography, it's not very far. So to me, it seems like a real slam dunk type place for him if the money works out.
Yeah, I think his ultimate place, growing up, that he would have preferred to be at would be Boston, right? Boston's in a different spot than Toronto. Toronto makes a lot of sense for me for all the reasons that you said. It makes sense for me because they're willing to spend. It makes sense for me because they are ready to win. It makes sense for me because they have enough of a balance in that clubhouse where he can fit, and it makes sense where he can extend his career there by moving to a corner at a certain point. So it's a great place to hit. It's just a great place to hit. So, for me, if I'm looking at, a couple of different places, one being New York, which has been long rumored to be after him, right? As far as Mets are concerned, you never know what the Angels are going to do. Remember, George Springer got married in California, so you don't know what Anaheim has in store. I think Toronto makes more sense in either one of those places, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him in a Blue Jay.
When you look at some of the guys who've been non-tendered, Dahl from the Rockies, Rodon from the White Sox.
Yeah.
I got to believe that there's a lot of teams out there thinking, you know what, maybe we're the group that could unlock what's in those guys. I would have to believe that those will be two of the more heavily chased players, do you think?
Yeah, I think one you're going to see get locked up pretty quick is the Shreve kid, or Shreve left-hander from the Mets. I mean, $1 million is what he was making, and they non-tendered him for that. I don't get that move at all. He's only lefty in the bullpen. He's effective. He all the metrics check out. He's got good stuff, and then all of a sudden now we just non-tender for him. I don't that one I didn't see. Some of the other ones you can understand. Dahl potential-wise has always been there. Hasn't lived into his ceiling for a number of reasons. Schwarber. With the Cubs is a guy that people could hit. World Series hero in 2016, hasn't. Is 230 career hitter, right? So there's things there that have to work through and hit home. And Almora's another one. Rodon, you mentioned.
Rodon, of course, has had arm issues, but
sure, but we're seeing some of the economic difficulty that some of these clubs have had. Excuse me, without having any fans. This year. And when you look at what their plan is for 2021, I don't think they know yet. I think they're trying to find ways to shed payroll. They're trying to find ways to at least stay competitive. Now, some of these guys might go back to the teams that they just left. It just means they're wide open to go anywhere now. Maybe renegotiate and do some things different financially that work for both. Maybe back end some contracts, maybe, a couple of different years. Who knows? You can get creative in times like this, but it does strike me the amount of quality players you would think be able to find a home fairly quickly that are no longer members of the previous organizations.
Are you surprised that a lot of these open general manager spots have not been filled?
So my understanding is the Phillies are getting down to the last couple of candidates for president of baseball operations. I don't think they're in any hurry. I think it's going to be a slow-moving offseason, like we just kind of talked about, as teams figure out their options, figure out their budgets, and figure out what 2021 looks like, even for a time spring training is going to start, right? So I don't know if it's overly it's an overly sensitive priority for them at the moment, but I know they want to get somebody in place, and I think that's down to Michael Hill and Josh Burns for that president of baseball operations position. Now, after that, I think what they would do is hire whoever gets that job would hire a general manager. And that GM then would likely bring in a couple of people, to at least assess the organization. And every organization has good people already there. There's some changes need to be made, but it's never wholesale. There's always some good people that are there. So, and that's usually how that stuff goes when people turn over. Is you start off with whatever the head decision maker is going to make. You surround that group with a few key people. And in this particular situation, 2 top executives in Philadelphia, and then a couple people, after that to help assess the organization. So that's getting closer. I think you'll see some closure on that in the next 10, 12 days at the latest. As far as the Mets are concerned, that's a little interesting. And that's different because, a month ago we started out with this, maybe it might be longer, 5 weeks, but time's kind of been flying. But we started out with this, this verbiage about being an iconic franchise. And we started out with this verbiage about hiring the most, accomplished executive that we can find, right? And we continue to go into verbiage about, Sandy's going to have a seat at the table, but he's not going to be at the head of the table, right? And more superlatives about what's going to happen here. And he'd already had an interview with one candidate for President Baseball Operations, and here we are 5 weeks later, and I mean he's over. He's over. The candidate we know he interviewed is Michael Hill. He clearly decided not to go along with Michael Hill. He had other candidates in the mix. Bobby Heck, his name was mentioned prominently in the media, and just overnight was shut down. As it kind of got to the closer to where we are now, I guess a week ago. You had Mike Chernoff, who was never really interested or a candidate, or kind of pick one. You've had David Stearns rumors, who isn't a guy they were going to get. You've had Derek Falvey, not a guy they're going to get. I mean, these guys are all top decision makers other places. So it's almost like, they were going after a list of guys that they weren't going to be able to get anyway, right? Because the verbiage in most people's contracts is pretty clear. Either title, some guys have title. I know somebody who has verbiage in his contract that he has to be the top decision maker if he leaves his current club and goes somewhere else in a department. It doesn't matter what the title is. He has to be the top decision maker, right? Or they have one that says, like the same thing. You have to be, if you're the top decision maker in all of baseball operations, you can't go. So going after Derek Falvey or Eric Neander, who had no interest whatsoever leaving Tampa, which probably never happened, by the way, or David Stearns, or that type of titled, leveled executive, no, wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to get that. So going after a target list like that seemed to be kind of an exercise, in my opinion, for the media. This is what it felt like. The list you're looking at, for a presidential operations would have been a Michael Hill, could have been a Bobby Heck, could have been a Thad Levine, let's say, who's a GM, right? Could have been, I guess Josh Burns. I mean, the Dodgers have Friedman as the presidential operations, but don't have a GM underneath him. So, the list of executives got smaller and smaller and smaller. What was interesting though about the Mets, because again, this is played out pretty publicly, right? Was that the Mets said they wanted baseball people, and Sandy Alderson had an interview himself where he talked about wanting baseball people, or it's hard to be a leader if you hadn't played or coached or scout or done those things, right? You had to be part of that. And you wanted somebody that had all that type of background and be kind of balanced. And it seems like most of the candidates who went for were anything but that. Just, the exact opposite. And when he had a chance to get those candidates, something spooked him, something got in the way. I know in the case of a Bobby Heck, for example, who I know really well, right? The amount of respect across the industry for what Bobby Heck has done, the amount of respect for or opportunity that people would have to work for him, the brain trust the Mets had an opportunity to bring in with Bobby Heck that they passed on for whatever reason. Why I don't know. There's to pass on that is curious. Not even to take that step is curious when you have 2 executive positions, then you go down to 1, and you've got somebody whose strength is player acquisition, and second strength is people. It's people. The guy drafted Springer. The guy drafted almost everybody the Astros had to win a title and kept that together. Before that, he was a cross-checker in Milwaukee, did it there. And then in Tampa, Eric Neander said on a conference call that I was on not too long ago for the Buck O'Neill that Bobby was essentially a mentor. You talk to anybody who's worked with the guy, and it's a no-brainer. So there was something going on there that doesn't quite add up, where Steve Cohen, as we found out later, Steve Cohen was the connection to Bobby Heck, right? So as we found that out, Steve Cohen I'm not sure was aware of. I'm not sure is accurate. I don't know, but whatever reason, they moved on from that type of person. Chris Young, no interest, right? They went after another executive in Minnesota, not Thad Levine and not Dirk Falvey. That guy wasn't interested. So they're kind of over there. I think,
and that's been a big thing. And I'm looking at the New York Post right now. They're just saying that this is one strikeout after the next. And in fact, Cohen conceded, quote, the first thing, according to an interview with SNY, saying the first thing, I'm a little surprised that we have been able to find people for the front office. I thought it would be a little easier than it's been. Baseball's kind of funny where you have to ask for permission and all that stuff. And we're not getting a lot of permissions, whatever the reasons are. So that was Steve Cohen's response in an interview with SNY.
Can I respond to that?
That's what you're here for.
No, and I just have to ask the question because what I'm going to say is a little bit, and strike me, correct me if this is, you've never heard this before. I think you have. What I'm about to say is a little bit direct and a little bit loaded here, right? So if Sandy Alderson or whoever the person is wants to be the GM and you want to have your people in place and that's all that you want to do, then just do it. No one else is going to come from a different organization and go in and be powerless. You're basically asking for a fall guy. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's happening. But let's say that, hey, Jason, I'm a president of a club, just me, and I call up you and I say, hey, man, I want you to come over and be my number one decision maker. I want you to be the guy. But by the way, I want this guy to do this and this guy to do that and this guy to do this and that guy to do that. And this is how we're going to do this. If that's what's going on, you're going to go, what am I here for? I don't need to come be the top decision maker because you are. And so if that's the case, maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, we've got a reversal in what's happened to the point where they really can't get anybody to come from the outside. And I think a lot of it has to do with a little bit of hesitancy on executives to come in and be told that these people have to stay in these places. And I think that's just not how the game has ever been operated or run before. And Sandy should just do it himself and live and die with that.
Another huge thing going on in baseball is the minor league realignment, that we will be seeing 120 teams. And a lot of them are not going to be part of that. Teams that we're used to seeing affiliated with Major League Baseball will be cast aside. And in fact, we're seeing in some instances, Major League teams partnering up with independent league teams. I mean, think about that. 25 years ago, even probably as far back as 10 years ago, Major League Baseball wanted no part of independent league baseball. They thought it was basically the circus. They wanted no part of it. And now these teams are going in and buying a piece of these independent league teams and making them their affiliates. And a domino effect, one team, Staten Island Yankees, they're now going to be suing the New York Yankees and Major League Baseball for no longer being a part of what we know as minor league baseball. Minor league baseball, some of these teams are now also becoming wood bat teams.
Yeah.
I just don't, I think I know what the reasoning behind all this is. I just can't understand why it's happening the way it's happening to so many places that build fans for the game. And what they're doing, I just don't know if some of these quote unquote draft leagues are really going to be able to sustain themselves in a market that's used to minor league baseball.
I think, first of all, the entire motivator behind all this in Major League Baseball is just it's money. Let's just get it out.
Always is money.
And look, it's a business first and foremost, right? But I think the collateral damage they're seeing now is pretty short-sighted. I don't think they understand what they're really doing to the game long-term. I think there's a little bit of we're Major League Baseball, we're MLB, and no one's going to walk away to this. But I would point a cautionary tale of this in just this offseason we have right now. The Major League Baseball is going to have a molasses type offseason, and they're shedding players from their roster because they're afraid of how much they have to pay them right now. Okay. The NBA has no such worries whatsoever. The NBA is moving right along and they're doing their thing and they're paying people and the fans can't wait to get back in the seats and they want to watch the games. And you don't have the same type of problems that you have in Major League Baseball from a fan connection standpoint, from a growth standpoint, from a bandwidth standpoint, frankly. You just don't. So if you're looking at at a model that works. The NBA seems to have figured something out that MLB hasn't. Okay. And that's how to grow what they're doing. That's how to keep people interested in what they're doing. And so MLB is looking at this as the game itself, numbers wise, raw analytics has to be done on a spreadsheet. There's no two ways about it. Just the way the game is played now, lengthwise, a 3-hour game feels like a 9-hour. It's ridiculous. How many strikeouts? How many few balls in play? I think it was half the runs in the game were scored on home runs. Like these are staggering type trends that have now firmly entrenched. It's going to take a while to get out of. People have to learn how to play the game different. So you have the trickle-down effect to minor league baseball, where they feel like, because of the scouting community, the way that things have gone, not the one that's large now, but some of the ways they pushed it, is that players are what they are when they sign. And so if you don't go in the first 5-10 rounds, they don't really have a value for you, they being the people who are making these decisions. And I'll point to a lot of players who would never have a chance to play that are stars. That wouldn't have been drafted at all in 2020. Paul Goldschmidt in the 8th round doesn't even play.
Mike Piazza, Keith Hernandez.
I mean, there's stories all over baseball, always have been, about guys drafted after the 5th, 10th, 12th round that became Hall of Famers or became stars. And
Albert Pujols,
13th round, right? And have changed the face of the game. They're not thinking that way. They're thinking that the analytics and the numbers are going to tell them that their numbers are going to tell them what players are. And there's some people who have been pretty negative for their influence on the game. And I'm not going to name who they are because it's irrelevant for what we're doing, but some of their own trees. Baseball people have trees, right? Jack Sorensic had a tree. Joe McIlvain had a tree. Terry Ryan had a tree. Some of these guys' trees have trickled into the game, and there's tentacles all different places, and it really has not been positive for it. So I think what you're going to see is MLB is first and foremost trying to pocket some of the money that minor league affiliates are making for themselves. And to do that, they want to pay minor league players more because everybody knows they need to get some more money. But they're going to cut affiliates to do it. So we're going to own it. We're going to downsize, and then we're going to pay the people we have a little bit better. Not a lot better, but a little bit better. We're going to upgrade the facilities. We're going to upgrade some of these stadiums, which they could have done anyway. They didn't need to buy the affiliates to do it. They could have done that anyway. And you know what? We're MLB, and everybody's going to be there anyway. No, it's not going to work. So it's unfortunate to see the way they're going with that. They've really taken a step backwards in diversity with this because you limit opportunities. In the analytical world, it's inherent against minority players in the draft and college and high school baseball because the high school analytics don't exist. And if you look at college baseball, it's not very diverse at all. And I'm not talking about the Corbins and the Bakic's and the guys who are out there trying to do things to just get the best players, right? Let's just get the best players. I'm talking about the face of college baseball. It just looks a certain way. So if all you're going to do is these analytics, you're going to walk away from some of these other guys because the players that are further away skill-wise don't get a chance to sign. And Major League Baseball is absolutely enforcing that.
I don't know if I'm correct in this presumption, but I think a lot of this started for two reasons. One, these major league teams saw these minor league franchises raking in the money and the values of the franchises going through the roof. And with all the wacky promotions they do and all the different jerseys and theme nights and all this stuff that really is generating so much interest in minor league baseball. My feeling is that a number of these major league owners and maybe Major League Baseball itself sat there and said, that's our money because they're making it off the backs of our players. Without our labor, they don't have a product. And also, every year within the affiliation shuffle, every couple of years, 2-3 years, the player development contracts come up, and a number of teams always get stuck with a team they don't want or a place that's less desirable, like, say, the Astros in Fresno, California, or the Mets in New Orleans. And I think that also had a lot to do with it because the teams are getting stuck with affiliates they don't want, that it's hard for them to fly scouts and player development people and everything else. And that's why you started to see, I think one of the first teams to do it, I think perhaps was the Red Sox, maybe, because they bought the Salem franchise.
Right.
And then the Mets bought Syracuse, and there were some other ones in there. But I think those two things are really the big reasons why we're seeing what we're seeing right now in minor league baseball. And for those people who think, obviously the Astros have bought a piece of the Sugarland Skeeters, and on the surface it seems like, wow, what a great thing. And yes, the value of that franchise has gone up immensely. But I know the hardcore fans will know this, the season ticket holders, you are losing a lot when you go from an independent team to a major league affiliate. Major league affiliates are very transactional. They don't care about winning. They care about development. Yep. And the fact that, and think of it with a lot of times with the affiliation shuffle, how many times have we seen minor league teams, these franchises, say, we don't want to be affiliated with that major league team anymore because they're not developing good players. We're not winning. I think of Rochester going from the Orioles to Minnesota. Yeah. And the players at these independent league teams, you played in the indie leagues, they become a member of that community. They're there for 2, 3, 4 years, and there is a connection. And I'm kind of sad that's, the Anthony Jansantis and all these guys that you see in Sugarland, they're not going to be there anymore. And I think that's a big loss for that community, in my opinion.
It's a big loss for the community that, in a number of ways, and you hit it on the head. It comes down to a shift in thinking where we are now with people in the front office. And look, Major League Baseball doesn't move very fast. So what you're seeing right now are things they want to do for a long time, using the pandemic to accomplish these goals. That's just what they're doing. And some people might say they're not, doing that in the office. I'm sure plenty of people that will hear this in the Major League office will disagree with my sentiments about diversity and analytics and how but they're facts. And the fact of the matter is they're damaging the game by doing what you're doing. And the Skeeters need to do what's best for them. Ownership need to do what's best for them. And that's a business. And if they wanted to sell part of the Astros, that's fine. I'm curious how the AAA affiliate of the Astros is going to play from a fan standpoint right down the street from the big league team. Because you can just go see the big league team. You just drive into town, see the big league team, right? I think from a geographical standpoint, Jason, to be honest, realigning affiliates so that they're closer to their major league club or more centralized for travel doesn't bother me at all. If you look at what we talked about, the Mets and the Phillies, so we'll just talk about them for a second. Look at the Mets. You've got New York, you got Syracuse. I think Binghamton, they end up keeping Bingham. Right?
Binghamton, Brooklyn.
And so those are right there.
And the only reason they have Syracuse is because they were on this roller coaster ride, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Buffalo, right. And because those teams, the Mets sometimes got stuck, but other times I think some of these franchises, these minor league teams are like, listen, you're not winning games for us, so we want to find somebody that's actually going to win games and put some excitement into our ballpark.
No doubt, and so, but just from a player standpoint and an organizational, seeing the players and moving guys around. Those geography's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But I do think you're losing a lot of the community support, a lot of the community intimacy. I think you're losing a lot of the feel of what they're doing by getting away and becoming purely transactional affiliates.
Another thing that has come up is the Draft League, which is basically taking a number of teams from the New York Penn League and then the Trenton Thunder. And it's a league that's going to be run by PBR, right? Prep Baseball Report.
Yeah. Yep.
It basically is going to be a league for draft eligible players centered around the draft. And I just don't understand the draw of it from a player perspective, unless maybe you're a guy from a Division III school or somebody who doesn't maybe get on television a lot or a lot of publicity. I don't think high school players are going to be in it. Certainly the best college prospects, they're not going to go there. It just boggles my mind why they think this is going to work.
So, there's a lot to unpack with this thing. And first of all, let me say congratulations to Carrick Jackson for his appointment as the president of this league. I've known KJ a long time. He's a really good guy. Very happy for him. In whatever capacity he's in, he'll do a good job. He's a genuinely caring person. So good for him. Good baseball guy, good caring person. Good, all for him. Okay. That said, this league ain't gonna work. Nope. And it'll go, Jason. It'll go. But it'll happen. But it's not going to work the way they want it to work. There's several hundred glaring issues with this thing, and I'll focus on the first few. And I want to kind of stop and say, before we even go further, Perfect Game has a league, a college league, kind of in that same area. Okay. And we forget about that.
It's in the upstate New York area.
Yeah.
A number of teams used to be in the New York Collegiate League.
Right. So, I mean, we don't hear a whole lot about that, but it is a Perfect Game collegiate league. So that's there. What MLB's plan was to kind of take a league that used to be the Appalachian League and kind of the same thing we talked about earlier, old minor league affiliates, and make that a freshman league, right? And then send some of the better players to after their sophomore year to the Cape, right? And then they need to do something for draft eligible players. Well, part of the turn or the attraction to the Cape was seeing, and the Northwoods League was seeing freshmen and sophomores against upperclassmen, or seeing guys in different scenarios that were playing against players older than them. What we've basically done is taken travel baseball that's age group oriented and now made that college baseball. So freshmen play against freshmen, sophomores play against sophomores, juniors play against juniors. We don't do that in Division I baseball, 2, 3, or JCs. We don't do that. We play whatever age group is on campus. Why we would do that in a summer league, I think that has value, is baffling to me. I don't know why you would do that. Okay, so that's hole number one. Hole number two, there's like I said, there are several hundred problems with this. Hole number two is that you're talking about playing 68 games, starting somewhere around June 1, give or take a couple days. Well, 68 games means that you're playing 30 days in June, 31 days in July. That's 62, right? Most people go back to college the third week of August, okay? Means you got to play, 7 out of the next 10? So in 70, 75 days, you're going to play 68 games? What planet, after all the innings that guys throw in the spring season, condensed into 3.5 months in college baseball, after all the games and the academic grind they go through, is that productive for player development? It is sideways, it is backwards, it is upside down. Pick a direction, because it's not straightforward. It's not a good idea. So that's a problem right there. The college coaches out there are going to go, nope, not doing it, not sending you. Okay. Third, Prep Baseball Report is going to, quote, pick the coaches. They're going to who, I don't know, and they're going to pick the players. What? I mean, look, there's some really good people that work for PBR. There's some guys that are really good at what they do. They're former players, and some guys that aren't. They're good guys. Like, they just are, I know quite a few of those guys. The state directors or the owners. I mean, they're some of the scouting directors they have in the state, scouting directors, good guys. Okay. That doesn't work, man. That doesn't fly. Their president and their owner made a comment. We have 150, and I'm paraphrasing, 150 scouts across the country that, are good at what they do, and we can evaluate and pick these guys out and send them to this league. But on the other hand, they're saying, we're going to talk to scouts, and we're going to talk to college coaches, and we're going to take their opinions into account. No, they're not, because what PBR just did was give everybody a reason to say absolutely not. They're basically saying, we're going to replace the major league scouts. We're going to take you guys, and you don't matter, and we're going to go ahead and replace you. Now, they'll say they're not saying that, but that's what ownership is saying. That's not what the state directors are saying. That's what ownership is saying. What do you think that just did to the scouting community? Think you got their support? Taking the draft and the things they do with their players to get to know them time after time, or year after year, their process is taking them out of their hands and saying, you have to come here to watch these players. That's what's going to happen? No. The whole thing that Harold Reynolds put out there on that video was straight propaganda. That was propaganda. This league's the best. It's sliced bread. Before we had sliced bread, we had bread we used to tear in half, and I put that in a toaster, and I put some butter on it, and I had some of that with some jelly. Man, I can't believe it. That's the Harold Reynolds. I was come on, Harold, come on. It was not. I know you're being paid to do a job. That wasn't great. Okay, that's problem number 3. Problem number 4 was that KJ came out and said, and maybe it was a misspeak, but he's been around a microphone quite a bit, so he's pretty familiar. KJ came out and said, yeah, we hope after players get drafted that their teams will leave them in this league to finish the season.
That was my big question.
Absolutely not. No chance. Those players, if they get signed, they're gone. They get drafted, they're gone. No club's going to say, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, you're looking like the 4th round. Go ahead. Stay there. You don't need to come be with us. Go ahead and stay in the draft league. Not going to happen, okay? And problem number 5 is every agent out there, every advisor who has a player that's a prospect is going to say, why am I sending you there for 68 games? They saw you all spring. They saw you all fall. They've seen you for, let's say it's a Division 1, 2, or 3 player or NAIA. They've seen you for 3 years. They know who you are. What is another 40 games going to do? And if your team is good and plays into a regional, you might end somewhere around June 1. You don't want to break. You don't want to go home for a week. You don't want to go see your family. You don't want to go out and do these regional workouts. You don't want to meet with teams. No, you're just going to go to the draft league. I'm not mom, dad. I'm going to go to the draft league. I'm going to stay there until I'm 64 years old. I'm going to play a bunch of games. It's not going to happen. So no agent is going to allow that to happen. Now, where they could find a niche is the kid that's been hurt, the kid that hasn't played in a year and a half, the kid that is going to go in the 43rd round, might be somebody's 5th outfielder, 6th outfielder that is athletic that you see, but you don't get to see a lot of, right? Those players might show up. But there isn't a scout in the game who doesn't spend his fall bearing down on colleges. Colleges today, I would argue, are over-scouted because of the analytical component.
Yes,
right?
They're highly measurable.
They're over-scouted. So when you're looking at the LSUs or the Arizona States or the Oklahomas or the University of Minnesota, pick somebody, Buffalo, doesn't matter. These guys have done their scout days. They have seen them. They've gone through it. Southern Cal College, Chapman. These are not all Division I schools, right? Lynn University in Florida, doesn't matter. There's one in St. Edwards in Austin, Texas. Like we went to scout day there. So you're going to know who they have, and you're going to keep your ear to the ground as an area scout. You're not going to send this kid to the draft league if he's been seen. So you're going to get guys that are hurt. You're going to get reclamation projects. You're going to get guys out of junior college who don't have a school to go to because the best JC players, you see them too. And I mean a lot, right? So that draft league isn't going to help. You see them a lot. All in all, it's a pretty bad idea. I think it'll go. I don't think it's going to have any support unless it's forced. I don't think the clubs are happy about it. Matter of fact, I can tell you, and I probably heard from no exaggeration, 75 guys across baseball going, what is this? Like and everybody knew it was coming, but nobody was happy about it. I can't see it working. I hope for Carrick's sake it does. And I know he's going to be good at whatever his part of that is. But this was a very, very bad idea. And some of the arrogance I saw coming out about it was unfortunate because it was a true window into what some people think, and it really alienated the rest of baseball.
For accuracy's sake, I have the quote. Sean Duncan, president of Prep Baseball Report, said, quote, "We are honored to work with these ownership groups, Major League Baseball, to assure the future of an impactful high-level baseball to the region and continue the legacy of deep community involvement from all of these teams. With more than 150 scouts and operations personnel coast to coast at the high school, collegiate, junior college levels, we take great pride in our ability to identify the nation's top amateur draft prospects, which will ultimately make the Major League Baseball Draft League the preeminent league for draft-eligible players." Boy, I think also it's another reason, right? Another way so that these teams that are being booted out of minor league baseball don't sue.
Yeah. Let's go back to that comment for a second. What planet are we? What are we doing? That's not.
We're on Earth. We're on Earth.
Are we sure? Are we still there? Because that's not how this is going to go. Man, that's just not. It doesn't have any feel. That's I can't, man, I can't. I'm just listening to that and I'm replaying it, and all these different things are hit. No feel whatsoever. I wish you guys the best of luck with it, but I don't see it.
I'm just curious how long these franchises will basically stick this thing out. How long will Major League Baseball provide its support? Because we've seen in the past in other sports, major league teams trying development leagues and things like that, and the losses start piling up, and then they have to cut the cord. Really, the minor league baseball system here, and you could argue the minor league soccer system, minor league hockey, yeah, but all those are independent owners that are almost like the old minor league baseball system that we have or had. And those are the ones that are successful, not these ones that basically are driven by the big boys. But that's what Major League Baseball is going for.
I don't get it. I don't understand why. I see the financial benefits of efficiency. Yeah, some of this stuff makes sense. Some of this stuff really doesn't. And to be fair, some of the problems MLB is dealing with and addressing now, certainly geographic and standards, and some of that stuff has been talked about for a long time, with privately within the game, or
it's been going on for decades.
Yeah, for sure. But some of this other stuff, I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't see it. I hope that it doesn't backfire. We're already in a place where the way we're playing this game is going to take a decade to change and get back to action. We making executive decisions based on feel goods and relationships instead of winning. There's a lot of things about this game that have changed as far as how we're approaching it. And you look at the other leagues, the NBA and the NFL, and they're not doing it that way. They're not doing it that way, and they're thriving, right? So probably start taking some lessons from them. Unfortunately, we're not doing that, but some of these changes are just unnecessary.
Speaking about getting it, my friend, you get it, because recently you just unveiled the new Future Stars Series Foundation. It is the hashtag We Break Barriers to provide equal access for players in financial need to high-level exposure and development events through Program 15, regardless of the background. I could sit here and say all this, but I'm going to give you the floor because you're the one that can really, this is your baby. So tell us why you did it. And the response seems to have been pretty good thus far.
Yeah. When I started this, you and I met pretty early on into this journey with Future Stars and P15. Matter of fact, I think you actually called me to introduce yourself maybe 6-8 months before I was ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? And I said to you, I said, I'll let you know when I'm ready. I'll let you know when we're ready to go. And then I emailed you and I said, I'm ready. All right. So the whole goal of what we do was that this industry of youth sports has cost us diversity. It's cost us people who economically, regardless of ethnicity, can't afford to participate. It's cost us talent. It's cost us drive. It's cost us consistency. It's cost us resiliency, and it's given a pathway and a platform to really one specific group of players. And frankly, that's just who can afford it. Baseball is, and I don't know hockey, so I'm going to throw that out there. But of the sports I am aware of, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, it is far and away the most expensive sport to play, and it's not even close. It is just tough to handle for a youth baseball player and a family. There are families that I've run across that are making life decisions on whether or not they can play baseball. And we're losing people that love the game. We're losing people that will pass down the game through communities. We talk about trying to increase diversity of thought and of people. And sometimes we say that, and then the industry does exactly the opposite. And so we're created, and we're not the only ones that are doing this. There are good people out there doing this stuff. We're created as a whole anyway, with P15 and the Future Star Series, to open doors for people who don't have them open for them because a checkbook isn't in their power, right? That's how a lot of people tend to operate now. I'm gonna write a check, and my son's gonna do this, and you know what? That's what's gonna happen. And while there's a business component to everything, Jason, I'm not driven by money. I've never been driven by money. I want to take care of my family. I want to be secure in my own life, but I'm not driven by dollars. I'm just not. And I think that's why sometimes it scares some people, because I'm not driven that way. I'm driven by making a difference. I truly am driven by making an impact. And thanks to you and some other people who I've been able to fortunate enough to meet and build relationships with, I have a platform. And I'll say what's on my mind. And very directly, I'll say we have done this game a disservice again and again and again. And we have accomplished some first here, we as a group, by turning a blind eye to it. Professional baseball in my former life, turn a blind eye to these things, just being so focused on what we're doing in pro ball and not looking about what's left, and people in the amateur industry just profiting as much as they can on the backs of people while not telling the truth. We're not talking about running businesses where you make money with, because you're just good at it. We're talking about people not telling the truth to families. That's what we're talking about. I can't stand for it. I won't stand for it. I'll do everything in my power to ensure I can fix it. And it feels like now I got an army coming with me. That's what it feels like. Okay. And we started the Future Stars Series Foundation to financially open those doors, break those barriers, flat out kick them down with my size 15 foot, frankly, to be able to help people have opportunity. Now, we can't promise people scholarships, to college, and we can't promise people they're going to get drafted. But you know what we can do? We can open up doors to put them in position to maximize opportunities. That we can do. There's Lake Charles, Louisiana, for example, couple hours away from us, right? Had 2 hurricanes roll through there, 2 in a matter of 6 weeks, right? They're rebuilding. Their families, they're still without homes. There's things that are really still upside down. And if we can find a way to contribute to that community, we want to be able to do so. And the list goes on and on. So the idea is to help people who need it. The idea is to not leave players behind who legitimately, athletically, and academically should be able to play baseball, who, whether they make the big leagues or not, will go back into their communities, be ambassadors for this game to grow it further at the grassroots level where it starts. And when I tell you I've got an army, we have programs donate their own money, partner programs. We had a billionaire donate some money. Yeah. We had a parent who's a doctor donate some money. We had players who have participated donate some money. We had parents of past attendees who donated some money. I never expected to hit our goal in 2 days. We hit it in 2 days. We opened up on the 1st, and the goal was 30 grand, and we got there. And that's right now. There's a lot of more things we want to do. There's other initiatives we want to go forward with, but I very strongly feel like we're missing something in this game, and we're missing something that goes beyond baseball. And we need to be able to put that back into it, because we've made this all about the dollar and who can afford to do it and who can go forward in their community is about writing their checks. And that ain't okay. We're hurting our game that way. And I'm not a football guy, and I'm not a hockey guy or basketball guy, but I am a baseball guy. And when I got 22 different major league representatives rolling with me, giving me their word, and I've got academies, and I've got players, and I've got coaches, and I've got people looking at us and trying to take them forward, I owe them something. I owe them the ability to give back. I owe them the ability to step forward and be the best I can for them. And so collectively we can do that. I'm just the person at the head of the line, but collectively we can do that. And it was moving to be able to see that happen yesterday.
And with that, we've just turned off the stadium lights. Well said. Well said. FutureStarsSeries.org is the website. 100% of Future Stars Foundation donations are directly applied to providing underserved amateur players meeting academic and athletic criteria, the development exposure opportunities that they would not have had otherwise by participating in select Future Stars Series skills training and evaluation events at no cost. Hashtag We Break Barriers. And yeah, it's all right there on FutureStarsSeries.org. Jeremy, great seeing you.
Thank you, man.
And we'll do this again. So for Jeremy, I'm Jason. Thanks for checking out Extra Bases with Bristol and Booth.